Good evening, everyone, and thank you to the, welcome to the regular council meeting, for June 12th, 2023. Members of the public can be present in the, council chambers during the meeting. But also they can observe the meeting via Zoom. Please note that the webinar will be recorded and published to the city's YouTube site. First item on the agenda is the adoption of the minutes. So we have before you three sets of minutes. The Governance and Operations Committee meeting of May the 23rd, 2023. The public hearing meeting of May the 23rd, 2023. And the regular council meeting of May 23rd, 2023. And the recommendation is that the minutes of the Governance and Operations Committee meeting, the public hearing, and the regular council meeting, all held on May 23rd, 2023, be adopted as circulated. Councillor Martin, seconder, Councillor Hanson, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So tonight we have one delegation who wishes to present, and I'd like to welcome Ms. Susan Casco to the table. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you. It's under 10 minutes, so I hope that is following the proper protocol. Whenever you'd like me to begin.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Susan Gaskell. We live at 1206 2nd Avenue and Trail. I am a retired municipal employee as of 2020, having worked for 32 and a half years in a support staff role at the Trail RCMP as a court liaison officer and exhibit custodian. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of ourselves and residents on 2nd Avenue north of Bailey Street through Gyro Park. We have lived here for 17 years, and specifically in the last 5 years or so, we have witnessed the dangerous speeds, lack of regard, distracted driving, and noise associated to the excess driving speeds in our neighborhood. It is being driven more like a highway, not a residential area, a neighborhood that is so close to the beautiful and well-used park that hosts all kinds of events. A busy boat launch, skate park, is close to schools, transit and school bus stops, daycares, one being in Sunningdale, hospital, hiking and biking bluffs, walking pets, biking routes for many, a pizza restaurant, and so on. You residents see firsthand every day what is happening, and the volume of traffic and speed is definitely contributing to the worry and loss of sense of safety and enjoyment in the neighborhood. It is alarming to witness this, when possibly there are changes that could be made to rectify it. People are quick to say, just call the police. Enforcement these days is not a feasible option. As you are all aware, manpower levels in Trail are very strained. Their focus is pulled elsewhere. And a police car sitting here or there doing a bit of spot radar enforcement once in a blue moon does not solve the long-term ongoing issue. I'm a painful realist. They have heard the concerns, but there just isn't the manpower to do enforcement. We believe the time has come that a more viable long-term option be developed and implemented. We have written to the city and RCMP about our growing concerns about the increased volume and speed of traffic on this long straight stretch corridor. The posted speed limit for this area is 40 kilometers an hour. There are literally thousands of vehicles made up of personal, commercial, and transit traveling through our neighborhood each day. I counted over 225 vehicles in an hour's time, which adds up to 1,800 vehicles in an 8-hour span, just on a routine Tuesday. And I believe this to be conservative. There's only one route in and the same way back out. That is a lot of traffic volume in a residential neighborhood. A neighborhood that once again is such a joy to see, filled with many new young families that have purchased homes, but likely one of the busiest residential streets in the Trail area. ICBC report dated March 29th, 2021 suggests vehicle volumes are approximately 2,400 vehicles per day. And I believe that was just going north. This same report says that speeds of northbound vehicles were measured and recorded from June 16th, 2020 to July 9th, 2020. I point out these dates as this was during a period of COVID when schools weren't in session, people were working from home, sports and activities were on hold, there were no concerts in the park, etc. So not really providing a completely accurate depiction of what traffic is typically like during regular times. The report also says that compliance for Second Avenue can be considered good. We in the neighborhood beg to differ. Significant improvements would be required to impact the speed profile on the street. Improvements could be undertaken that would improve the safety of vulnerable users in side street traffic intersections. Taylor Street and Gopal Street intersect Second Avenue. Two-way stop signs only. There are crosswalks at both. I have personally canvassed a dozen or so mostly random addresses in the neighborhood of the 1100 and 1200 blocks of Second Avenue to see if they wished to provide any input. I took first names, street numbers, and any comments or concerns if they even had any. The majority of these people I'd only met for the first time while doing this. The consensus is that the volume of traffic, the speed, and safety concern all. One homeowner I spoke to last week saddened me when she said she hates living on this street now because of the traffic and noise. Most parents will not let their children cross at the intersection from the sidewalks on Taylor due to their concerns of speeding, distracted drivers, or poor sight lines. Many suggested speed bumps or humps as a solution or stop signs as another. The reality is enforcement practices have become challenging. It's everywhere. The police are needed to attend to matters elsewhere, and we do not have a dedicated traffic-only enforcement section. The speed reader boards, put up twice a year for a couple of weeks, only have an impact on some drivers, but then it's back to the usual for the remaining weeks of the year. And even reducing the speed limit would probably see little improvement. Signage is only somewhat effective. 40 kilometers an hour painted at the start of Second Avenue at each end has helped only slightly, though the intention was good. This is a long straight stretch with high traffic volumes without anything in place to help reduce speed and improve safety. I am here to sincerely appeal to the city to implement traffic calming measures to encourage safe driving by slowing traffic speeds, either by way of speed bumps or speed cushions, sidewalk and curb bump outs, traffic calming signs in the middle of the road, stop signs, or a combination or variety of these measures. A crosswalk and traffic calming measure was put at the entrance to Sunningdale. I believe we are all stakeholders in this, children, residents, the people who come in to enjoy this area for recreation or entertainment, and the list goes on. This is such a great area to live. At the All Candidates Forum in October, safety was a common topic of discussion and theme. There is, of course, a large focus on the safety of the downtown core, but I strongly also believe we have to take measures to improve the safety of our residential streets. If I had $1 for every time I've been told over the years, the city says we can't do speed bumps because of snow plows. Well, it snows almost everywhere in Canada, and many cities have implemented all different types of traffic calming measures as a solution to speeding in neighborhoods. In closing, witness to these driving practices is concerning to see day in and day out. Enforcement options are limited. This is to respectfully request the city give consideration in this regard. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And I've got the list of comments from the residents that I spoke to. I stopped after that because it just seemed to be the only thing. And then just a photo of the crosswalk at Taylor and second, the skid marks through. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Cynthia.
Do I need to leave this?
If you want to share that information with us, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the simple version you have.
I shortened it a bit. Yeah. Just took out a few
I'll circle
word
it.
things.
And services. Usually. We can do that. Look at it.
Okay, I was just asking the city clerk, we could ask any questions or make any comments. I don't know if council Ms. McIsaac, what is the proper protocol for a delegation, because I personally have some comments that I would like to make, but if I can make them after, I will.
No, it's certainly appropriate for you to address the delegate. So background information was shared with all of you via email. So you did receive copies of the letters that have been exchanged between Ms. Gaskell and city staff over the years. And there has been a recent email, I believe, sent from Sandy Lucchini on behalf of Public Works, indicating kind of what is planned for this year. So if you had any questions for Ms. Gaskell or wanted to share from that information that was sent to you by email, you would be free to do so.
Okay, thank you. So, Councilor Cashel.
Yeah, I just had some questions, Ms. Gaskell. I was making notes. Near the end, you were talking about measures that could be taken to reduce speed along there. I got speed bumps. I got a four-way traffic, and there was some other things you mentioned as well. Maybe you can expound on that a bit, maybe give us some explanation around that, so I was spared my.
There's another form instead of speed bumps. Well, there's speed bumps that they don't have to be permanent. They can be moved, say, like take them out in the winter. They're movable ones, not permanent ones. There's speed cushions, which I think are like a pad and a pad.
Okay.
Or some places have curbs that are bumped out to slow the traffic down, or different places have something in the middle of the street to indicate drivers should be driving slower. I guess it's the best way to say it. There's a plethora of different types of measures out there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other? Councilor Hanson?
I drive down that street every single day. And my husband every single day. My kids go to school in Sunnydale daycare and after school care. And I do understand where you're coming from throughout there. The daycare manager even said to me today, you might be getting a few calls from people that want to see it slower through here. So I think this is a very common theme that I think people are, not paying attention to how fast they should be going as a whole. And, something that I think going forward, we look into that as a whole for safety in all of our neighborhoods.
I do think that it's partly probably to do also with how much busier we have more things in the area now. We have the pizza restaurant, the skate parks open, the bikers in the bluffs, everybody, which is great. I welcome all of it. I think it's fantastic in the park. It just brings more vehicles. And I think that's probably why we've noticed an increase. And when high school gets out at 2:58 or something like that, it's also rip-roaring up and down there. Yeah.
Any, Councilor Hanson?
I grew up in that area. I grew up on Columbia Avenue on 1100 block.
Okay.
So I also find, especially that block from, I guess, Taylor to Gyra with the big trees, it's a bit different than even the block before. And your sight line, it's different. I read the report where it discussed comparing it to Highway Drive, and it is a very different situation than Highway Drive because you feel really congested, especially in the fall when the leaves are there. It's if someone's going too fast, it's definitely a danger that someone walks out between the cars parked there. And
But I think it picks up, there kind of is a bit of a slowdown at GoPro because a lot of people are turning out of it, it's a four-way going on thing. And then as soon as they get onto the 1200 block, and it's a very straight stretch and wide, it just flies. And then when they get into 11, they have to kind of slow down a little bit, but not that much because of the trees. It's definitely a racetrack for sure.
so I wasn't surprised to see this on the thing. So thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
I was going to say the same. Thank you for coming because I live in Sunnydale, so I am back and forth myself quite a bit. And I know that previously that when the issue has come to council, that we really, as staff, have been very good at trying to find a solution. At one time we had that speed sign there. It shows the speed that you're going through. Well, as soon as you see that, you slow down, right? So that really did work. And then just recently, we had the speed limit painted on the road, and that made a difference for a little while. So, but I think now people are used to it and they're ignoring it as they go by. And I always wondered if it would be a good idea to have one of those, street lights that flashes. You know, it's always like they have a Moorfield, it's always flashing yellow, and then when somebody goes across the street, of course, it flashes more. And so the cars stop, they slow down to let the person cross the street. And there's so many kids on that street now, you always see somebody trying to cross. Or if somebody opens their door, it can be quite scary, so, you know, I don't know what the answer is, I'm glad to see you here tonight so that we can have that discussion. And, maybe I would like to make the suggestion that we, send it back to staff to see if they can have another look at that area, because you're right, it has changed a lot over the last year or even.
The volume is significant, yeah, and like I said, lots of new young families, which is, it was an old person neighborhood for a long time, and
Yeah,
everybody aged out, and now it's young families that are having little kids all up and down the street now, which is great, and
you know, you see
Yeah.
them trying to get their buggies out of their trunk and stuff like that, it's just scary, it's really scary.
and with the speed
Yeah.
comes the noise, also it's,
Okay.
like I said, and the lady that I spoke to last week who flat out said to me, I hate living here. It just sort of, it was very disappointing to hear that, because I think it is great. I love living there. And I think there could be some improvements for sure.
Okay, does someone want to make that motion to revert back?
So why don't we refer back to staff to explore curb extension by compounds?
Thank you,
That was
Councillor
from the
Butler.
report.
Yeah.
from Franklin.
And is there a seconder? Councillor Benson? Thank you, all those in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you, everyone, thanks again, Susan.
You're
for
welcome,
coming.
thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you for
Stansel
listening to my,
and Mr. Deason. You're also an occupant of the center.
Okay, so
Big Albert.
the, next item on the agenda is the public question period. Is there anyone
Thank you.
wishes to address council at this time? No?
Can I just make a comment about that light up in Warfield is a button, it doesn't cross, you know, it'll actually turn red. It's not just mid flashes, like you said, but they can cross when it turns red.
Okay, so, on to item number 4. The first item is, well, they're bylaws, and the first item on the agenda is the trail recreation fee bylaw amendment bylaw number 2929. 23 for the first, second, and third readings. And I will ask CEO McClure to speak on this, just to give us a refresher.
Yes, we had our Bush director, Tricia Davidson, come speak to us about the reasons why. And again, this happens at this point of the year so that they can set their rates basically from September until September until August. But the idea being that there's the whole preparation of what each year guide and the different programs that they want to have. So whatever rates that they set, and then put it in place for a year. And that seems to be the time now to adjust the rates so that everything can be in place for that, where we have the most programming. The following year. Again, we know that there's been certain pressures, not only just on logistics and the cost of inflation and whatnot. We can respect that increasing any rates, it's hard on people that are using recreation than we are using any things, but we do feel that there's a kind of a balance that comes with having additional funds. We do know, and I know council is aware that even the fees that we do get, these programs are heavily subsidized by the city's taxpayer already. And so when you have user fees, they are a component, absolutely, but they're not covering. So if you've got a 2% increase on something, or even a 3%, having a 4% increase on the rates is still not having that much of an effect, because the subsidization is in that 70-80%. So again, just trying to recognize for council that it's not always an easy decision to make to be able to increase the rates, but if we want to be able to have the programming and have the funding to continue on, these are the areas where we need to apply those changes.
Thank you. So is there any questions or? No, I haven't seen it. No, okay. So the recommendation is before you, the recreation fee bylaw amendment. Can I have some of the motion, please? Councilor Butler? Did you have a question?
I did, but I can ask afterwards on the
Oh,
phone, right?
Sorry, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I have two questions.
Oh.
So, okay, the first one, comes from our lessons learned from Silver City Days and the arena kitchen, and just wondering, on the report, it says that it's up to the renter is responsible for cleanup and removal of all kitchen garbage and personal belongings immediately after each event, and I was just wondering if staff had ever considered doing a bit of a damage deposit that they could get back. The feedback we received was that they had to put in a lot of effort before they started their work this year, so just wondering if that was anything that was considered.
That is something that I'm. It was a great question. The other thing too is that I know that it hasn't been something that has been utilized recently.
Yeah,
And,
it's been-
it's definitely on the radar for staff as far as operating in a number of different areas, and then certainly in that expanded idea of what can work better with the region itself
Okay.
on the kitchen, but.
And then my second question has to do with soccer. And specifically, mayor and council, we received an email from the adult soccer group, and I just wonder on here, would that be like the field rental, or is that I think that the issue was that the Kootenai South Recreational Soccer League, there's a division in Trail, Fruitvale, Rosslyn, and Castlegar, and they travel around and play at each other's fields, and they haven't played at Trail this year because of the TRP, and I didn't see where on the schedule, or I could have totally missed it, where that was laid out. All I could see was the rental of the field.
And so where that will be is anytime you have those leagues that are renting out those spaces, same as hockey, they need to submit their rosters with, which players are playing in particular. And depending on whether or not they are or not, then that's where the fee is either applied to at the rate of TRP. So that's what,
Okay.
that is where that is coming into effect, is going along. The same thing happens for hockey, and it's the rink in there, they put in the rosters.
Yeah, I remember they talked
Yes.
about hockey, but yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
but it's the same idea.
Okay.
And again, too, it's a bit unfortunate, but again, I think we heard the explanation from the director as to
Yeah,
what's in place, and naturally what we want to do. We were a bit concerned that they had just maybe gone and used the fields anyway, sort of thing, which they hadn't, but they were going out of trust for it. But again, it's one of those tough decisions that is predates most of you being here on council, the TRP. This is some ramifications we get individuals that need no understanding, but that mixed team and cost can go quite
Okay.
good. So, but that's where it comes.
Okay.
It would just be on rental pieces.
Okay. But also focus on hockey.
Yeah, well, exactly. It would be the same idea.
Right, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Benson. My apologies again.
No, that's okay.
Okay, so if there's no other questions, I will call for the recommendation. A motion on the recommendation. Thank you, Councilor Butler. Is there a seconder? Councilor Casho, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Motion carried. Okay, so the next item on the agenda, I have to recuse myself because I am related to the applicant. So I will ask Councillor Martin to assume the chair. And I'll leave the room and someone will get me. Thank you.
Get Councilor Wilson to the.
I'm also gonna have to excuse myself as well. The applicant is a friend and a corporate client at our law office as well, so I'll just due to a chance of conflict, I will mute and leave the room as well. Thank you.
Counselor Wilson, we will text you when it's time for you to return.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, item 4.2 zoning bylaw amendments. Bylaw number 2930, 2023, first and second reading. We'll get, I'll ask Ms. McIsaac to introduce the item and we'll go from there, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. So the property owner of 2144 6th Avenue and Trail is applying to rezone the property from single-family residential R1 to single-family residential R1S to allow for the development of a secondary suite on the property. The purpose of the reporting that's before you is to advance the rezoning application and the proposed bylaw for first and second reading at tonight's meeting. So the property is owned by Kevin Santori and his wife Allison. They own the property. They have recently purchased it, looking to do some renovations and would like to add a secondary suite to be constructed on the property. What Mr. Santori is proposing to do is to construct a detached accessory dwelling unit or secondary suite on the property, and the attached site plan is included in your agenda packages. So back in the year 2020, council had enacted regulations pertaining to secondary suites. And section 317A of our zoning bylaw stipulates that secondary suites are permitted in the single family residential R1 zone and the single and two family residential R2 zones. However, it is required that they be rezoned to R1S or R2S, whichever zone is applicable, if they are wanting to install a secondary suite on their property. And the zoning bylaw was structured in this way so that any request coming forward could be considered by council on an individual basis, and the merits of the property in question could be considered. It is at this time looking to amend the zoning bylaw as noted to have the designation of 2144 6th Avenue changed from R1 to R1S to allow for a detached secondary suite. And so what's unusual in this application is that the secondary suite won't be contained within the existing principal dwelling. This particular property has lane access, so it is very well suited for what is commonly referred to as a laneway house or a carriage house. We are expecting changes to be implemented through the province. So included in the reporting was a Homes for People Stronger BC booklet. So we are watching for legislative changes that the province may implement later this fall that would look to densify all single-family residential dwelling properties in certain areas of the province. At this point in time, though, trail zoning bylaw doesn't allow for the detached suite. So as we move forward with this particular application, it's being recommended that council proceed with the rezoning. But at the same time, what we would do, because it does require some specific variations from what is allowed in our zoning bylaw for secondary suites, we would also have to have a development variance permit issued. And so if council is agreeable with proceeding with the rezoning at the time of its adoption, we would issue the development variance permit at the same time. And so the variances that are being sought are reductions in the interior side yard. So presently on the property in question, there is an accessory building. I believe it is a rather dilapidated garage. They're proposing to demolish that, add what would be the residential dwelling unit, the second residential dwelling unit, with an additional carport attached to it. And to do so, they are looking for a variance to the interior side yard setback from 1.2 meters to 0.3 meters, and the rear yard setback reduction from 1.2 meters to 0.6 meters. So that's a variance of 0.9 meters and 0.6 meters respectively. So with any rezoning application, I think council has the familiarity now that we do have to go to a public hearing. So after first and second readings, staff would take action to provide notice out to all property owners within 50 meters of the subject property that the property is subject to a rezoning. At the same time, we would provide notice of the development variance permit issuance, because the communication process and notice is identical there. So we would cover off an explanation of both the rezoning and the development variance permit in our one notice out to property owners. It is felt that this residential development does align with the residential nature of the adjacent properties, and in my opinion, should not negatively impact other neighboring properties. And I think for in looking at where the province is going with respect to densification and looking for accessory dwelling units to be provided, it is time for Trail to make the change. At this time, it is being recommended that you do proceed with the first and second readings of the zoning bylaw amendment bylaw number 2930, 2023, which would rezone the property once adopted at 2144 6th Avenue.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McIsaac. Does anybody have any questions for her?
Just a comment.
Go ahead.
In dealing with housing and my background, this is something our neighbors up the hill are already doing. This already having infill lots with garages and secondary dwellings. So this is not offside for what the province is mandating or coming forward in the fall, as well as what our neighbors up in Rossland are already doing. So I definitely support that.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, I'll review the recommendation that the zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw number 2930, 2023, receive its first and second readings. Can I get a motion?
So
Moved by Councillor Hanson, seconded Councillor Butler. Didn't see out this side. So all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is the council committee reports, and Council Benson, you're first up today.
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. On May 29th, I attended the Kootenai Local Government Renewable Working Group kickoff meeting, along with yourself in Castlegar, hosted by Neighbors United. The purpose of the meeting was to build relationships with our surrounding communities in regards to the 100% renewable energy promise that the municipalities made within the last few years. It was a great opportunity to not only get a better understanding of the process needed to get our plan ready and off the ground, but also to see where the other municipalities are with their plans and how we can work together as a region to advocate, learn, and implement plans together. Our staff rep that'll be working on this is Ben Grezin Jones, and I look forward to supporting him in this endeavor in any way that I can. On June 6th, I attended the Local Leaders for Mental Health Forum. It was a lunch meeting and where they hosted Provincial Health Minister Dr. Bonnie Henry, who provided an excellent talk on the importance of local leaders managing their own mental health in different areas of support that we can reach out to when needed. The Canadian Mental Health Association was there also and provided a presentation on the funding that the province announced for 10 community-led teams and 2 teams led by Indigenous organizations. They're currently in the engagement phase of this, and anyone can nominate their town for the pact. A few of us council members shared the info on our Facebook pages. The aim of the pact is to provide an alternative to police and shift BC's crisis care to a community-based, client-centered response centered on mental health and well-being of the affected individual. The CMHC is hosting a meeting this Friday to answer questions on the pact, and I've registered for this as Mayor Jones. And this past weekend, along with, I think, almost everybody here, I attended the Columbia Basin Trust Symposium or Symposia. I still don't know what it is. Is it symposium is one, right? That's what I thought too.
Here in Trail.
The symposium here in Trail, and I'm sure the rest of the council will comment on it as well, but it was a great weekend. Helping the CBT identify and understand the priorities of our region so that they can adjust programming and grant streaming appropriately. So it was a great weekend. We were very well fed. It was great to see so many people there. That is my report, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Benson. Any questions for Councillor Benson? No? Okay. Councillor Butler.
Thanks, Mayor Jones. On the 24th of May, I attended the Chamber AGM, followed by the monthly business after business meeting or get together on the 25th. On the 4th, I attended the ALS walk at Gyro, which was really well attended. I believe there's over 300 walkers that day. I was there on flipping burgers. On the 5th, I attended along with others, the TCAT monthly meeting, the 8th, the Downtown Improvement Committee meeting with Councillor Hanson, and along with everybody else, the symposium here on the trail. And it was a great event. And I guess a bit of a shout out to Mr. Mercer for really making the effort to get here by the sounds of it. The show went on at 9 o'clock, so that was wonderful, but you know, probably some speed limits might have been broken, but we got here, so that's good. Thank you very much. That's it in my report.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Any questions for Councillor Butler? Councillor Cashel.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. On May the 24th, I attended on an invitation the committee meeting for the Society for the Protection and Care of Seniors. I have been meeting regularly with this group because I am the mayor's appointed person to the group. The mayor's appointee, sorry, to the Senior Advisory Committee. So they've asked me to participate in their ongoing meetings, and I have been. There have been multiple discussions concerning the Senior Advisory Committee while I'm in attendance at the Society for the Protection and Care of Seniors Committee. And I'm hopeful that these discussions will soon move into a larger platform involving city staff and mayor and council, so I can bring direction back or have direction personally given to me on where we want to go with the Senior Advisory Committee. I just also want to comment that the Society for the Protection of Care and Seniors is a very robust, well-connected, well-chaired, growing committee, and it's been exciting to be a part of it, and I continue to do so as well. Lastly, I'll comment a bit on what has already been disclosed about the symposium with the Columbia Basin Trust. What I took away from that was learning a lot about the trust. Appreciate the opportunity to participate with the 165,000 other basin residents to give direction on where they want to allocate funds going forward. But also the opportunity to meet with Yuli Mueller. She's a senior manager and she is the housing fund coordinator. She is the go-to person with the Columbia Basin Trust. So to have a connection with her, with other counselors, get a brief overview of what she's done and her enthusiasm about wanting to work with us and share information with us was a positive takeaway. And then we also had the opportunity, other council members and I, it was actually Councillor Hanson and I, had a chance to bend the ear and listen to Patrick Cheknita. He is the community liaison for the community basin, for the community, for the Columbia Basin Trust, sorry. And he's excited to work with us. He's looking forward to building a relationship with our team, city staff, and mayor and council. So that was very positive for me to take that away. And I just wanted to share that with those listening and mayor and council and our staff. So thank you very much. That's all I have, Mayor Jones.
Thank you, Councillor Cashel. Any questions? No? Okay. Councillor Hanson.
Okay, guys, last time I didn't have a lot to say, now I have a lot to say. So it's been a busy week the last week. Prior to that, I attended the Chamber AGM with Councilor Butler. But last week was a nonstop full packed meeting week. We all had a welcome invitation from BC Housing to tour some of their supportive housing units. And I was going to Kelowna for work, so I thought I would take them up on that offer. So very happily, I got a tour from the manager of the Stephen Village Supportive Housing Building, which is right behind Winners, right by the mall, some commercial, some residential neighborhood. And I had a better understanding of what supportive housing actually looks like. They are people that have been placed. They decide on how they get there with different groups of supportive housing and shelter staff. They get a needs assessment done. They get a mental health assessment done. They sort out how they are going to be, how they're going to get connected with supports in there to assist them, and the supports come to them at this space. The story that kind of made my heart grow a little bit bigger and happier is the neighbors originally were against it in their community. And, we see that, people are, as a whole, it's the NIMBYism, right? And so they were against it in the beginning. So they had engagement with neighbors, RCMP, IH, the management of Stephen Village, to just mitigate those issues that they might face as they were dealing with this new development of supportive housing. And it got to a point that the RCMP finally said, like, why are we still here? You guys are offering to do like burgers and donations, and it has become a neighborhood. And that NIMBYism has gone away, and they're supporting their neighbors now, which was really a great news story for me. And then on the 6th, I actually met with Matthew Camerand. He is the supportive housing advisor for operations for the interior region for BC Housing, as well as Amanda Bennett from the John Howard Society. We talked a little bit about some of the modeling that John Howard Society does, and how they operate, and how some of their committees are formed, and how they work with the city and interior health, as well as just kind of some of the modeling of those committees. So they are going to be sharing those with us, just so we have terms of reference and what the goals are and how things are getting done over there as well. Also on the 6th, while I was there, I met with and toured a company that actually does rental housing. So through the AKBLG, the City of Cranbrook's Economic Development Officer put me in touch with the property acquisition manager of the company that does residential rental market housing. So I called him and they didn't have Trail on their radar. And he said, thank you for reaching out, because now Trail is on our radar. Now we want to investigate more about what it would look like to come to Trail and help build some rental housing for you. So I got to tour one of their facilities while I was there as well. And then on the 8th, Councilor Butler and myself had a Downtown Trail Improvement Committee meeting. And it was quite interesting. We've got, the group is going to actually be looking to come to council and provide a bit of a learning workshop, or is asking to provide a learning workshop on crime prevention through environmental design, which I think would be nice to understand as we go alongside, reviewing our OCP and how some of those elements can be put into practice as we move forward with that. And then the CBT symposium with all of you. That is it. For now.
Awesome. Thank you, Councilor Hanson. Any questions?
I know.
Councilor Martin.
Well, here we go. You first. ladies
No,
first.
you go first, please.
Mine says.
Just wondering, with your, you're our subject matter expert on all things housing around the table. And did you learn anything from your meeting with the housing developer, the rental specific one, that you hadn't known or that you think would work well?
Well, it's kind of interesting. They're actually, now that this company is in 31 municipalities from the island to Ottawa. And one of the towns and cities they're in is about the same size of census agglomerate as us. So, very interested to kind of share with him what we have with, tech, with the hospital, with the lack of housing for seniors as well as, average, middle income and low income. And, it's something that they, said that, different levels and different ways of management could be structured.
So the city the size of Kelowna, and they have one of those houses, those quarter houses set up. And with the ongoing issues we see on the news all the time, with all the tents down that one road, how many of those facilities do they anticipate building in Kelowna?
They need probably another 5 to 10, at least. And I also, when I met with BC Housing and Amanda Bennett from the John Howard Society, we were in one of their other locations downtown Kelowna on St. Paul.
Councillor Cashel.
Just a comment, thank you, Councillor, for providing information. I think it's really important going forward that we have this background information. One thing that we did take away from a recent conference is the importance of having the proper management of a supportive housing site and the wraparound services that you alluded to that come and visit. These are people that have their own place, they have their own fob, they have their own home. And I just think it's an exciting report. I really appreciate what you said about the neighborhood embracing it. Sorry. That gets me excited as well. And that's part of our role going forward is if and when we're ready to put a shovel in the ground on a supportive housing unit is that we'll have this background information. We'll have the ability to sell it and really represent it well to the city of Trail. So I really appreciate that report. Thank you.
Hey. Thanks, Councillor Hanson. And on to Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. I don't have much to say, just I attended the CBT symposium on the weekend and it was very informational, really well done. The one thing I wanted to mention, and it was through the regional district, I had the opportunity to go to the FCM conference in Toronto. And there, it's the largest, it was through the regional district, it's not through the city, and I apologize, but I just want to share some stuff. That there was over 1,500 delegates and there's over 200 vendors at the trade show. But the one thing, there was a common theme that whether you're in Kelowna or whether you're in Trail, everybody's going through the same thing. Every city, every municipality across Canada is going through the same thing. So it's good to share, like Councillor Hanson is making those connections. And I think it's just outstanding that we get to communicate with other people and share stories and share ideas instead of trying to reinvent the wheel. That's it for my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have nothing to report as far as committees go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wilson. And on to my report. So obviously we've all been to the same places, done the same things. So as you were speaking, I was trying to find some things that were a little bit different that I've been doing the last couple of weeks. And I did want to mention the 100% renewable working group that I attended as well. Very good work that is, going to be done there. As Councillor Benson said, there was representatives from across the East and West Kootenays. We had a representative from Fernie. I believe there was someone from Creston, as far as Nakus. So it's really inspiring to see that there's so much interest in moving that forward. And it was a great couple of hours that we spent with them, with the group. I also attended the Ending Working Poverty Leadership Table. And I believe that I reported on that at the last meeting as well. It's a newly formed committee, and we're discussing what our mandate should look like, as well as when our next meeting would be. And so it looks like we'll be having a cross Canada table meeting by Zoom. Shoot, can't go across Canada, but the other 4 communities that are involved is Drumheller, Alberta, Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, and Chatham-Kent, Ontario. So we've come up with a time where we can all be on the Zoom link together to see what, other communities are doing across Canada. I also, just a quick comment about CBT symposia. I have to say that I thought Rick Mercer was so funny, and to get there that late and travel like he did and still have the energy that he did, it was just great. And I really appreciated him making the effort. About the symposium, you know, it's so good to go to these and hear about the networking and learning about other communities and what they're doing about their issues and sharing that information and making a difference. So I think, you know, they're important to go to. They do take a lot of time and energy, but I think it's really important to attend those and, you know, get that collaboration going between the communities. Just something that's coming up on Saturday is the National Indigenous Day celebration at Jarrow Park from 11 to 4 and on Saturday. And everyone is invited to come and celebrate and learn more about the Indigenous culture, and they will have food and entertainment will also be provided. So if you're in the community and want something to do, it's Jarrow Park on Saturday. And that's my report. Any questions?
Ms. Jones, would this be an appropriate time to mention the tour that we're doing next week? I forgot to mention it. I was gonna mention it in the report.
Oh, sure.
I
Yes.
just thought it would be something that we are doing together, so.
Sure.
So
Great
the
idea.
City of Trail and Tech Trail Operations are co-hosting a visit to Trail June 21st to 23rd with several ministry representatives, as well as partners from the Trail Health and Environment Programming joining. The purpose is to develop a shared understanding of the range of work in trail, regulated and non-regulated, the organizations and people, as well as the roadmap to support human health and well-being in a community influenced by smelter air emissions. Technical as well as senior representatives are coming. Laurel Nash, who's the Assistant Deputy Minister from the Ministry of Environment, and Marana Korchagina, oh gosh, sorry. I'll butcher that and I'll apologize to her when we see her, who's the Assistant Deputy Minister for the Ministry of Health, along with some senior advisors of their teams. Dr. Karen Goodison, who is the Medical Health Officer from Interior Health, as well as others from her team are going to be joining us. The first evening will be dedicated to culture and community, and the THCC community members will join for a walking tour of trail showcasing the community aspects of the program. Thursday, there'll be a technical tour of tech and projects in the community tech is working on, and Friday will be focused on putting all the pieces together. Mayor Jones and I'll be there as much as we possibly can, and looking forward to learning together, sharing all the great work taking place, and gain an understanding of everyone who is working in the landscape and how we all intersect and overlap and support each other with a shared goal of a healthy and sustainable community.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson, for reporting out on that. Yeah, it's exciting. It's going to be great to have them in our community, right? Okay, so next item on the agenda is new business. Is there any new business to bring forward? Not seeing them, okay. On to department reports. Number 7.1, the bylaw enforcement department report. The recommendation is this report be received for information. Can you make that a recommendation?
I'll make that motion.
Councilor Cashel. Seconder, Councilor Martin. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is adjournment. So make that motion, Councilor Hanson, Councilor Cashel, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone.